Alright, so today we're talking about Conscript. This game is a pretty good survival horror with a lot of interesting and different mechanics added onto it. I think they really work with the genre. And on top of that, it has a great, brutal, historical World War I setting. All these things turned out to be a pretty great combination and worked out pretty well. Let's start off with the gameplay. It's a not necessarily slow-paced, but still methodical top-down shooter. Combat can be very hectic, but at the same time, every action you take has to be well thought out and precise. There's a mechanic where the longer you hold the aim button, the more accurate you'll be with your shots. There's also a similar thing for melee, but it's more power, and that really encourages you to try to put yourself into a situation where you have as much possible time to aim. There's also running and dodging, which are both limited by a stamina meter, and it gives it a bit of a Souls-like, or I guess this is a shooter, Remnant-like feel to it. When to dodge and run has to be well thought out because stamina regeneration is pretty slow. The last part that makes the combat methodical is the reloads. Reloads are realistically slow and you really gotta choose the right moment to do so. Some of the guns even have to be cocked between shots. But before we get into the rest of it, if you like survival horror influenced games with a sense of impending doom, check this out. What Happens After Midnight, my action survival horror game, is available right now. You're sent to investigate the town of Nightvale and quickly find out interdimensional forces are invading our world. Hop between worlds, meet strange characters, and survive cosmic horrors once you find out what happens after midnight. Also, any feedback is greatly appreciated. This game has a very good variety of guns, and most of the guns are pretty good. They can be upgraded, but as usual, there's not much point to upgrading anything other than firepower. Maybe if it was your second playthrough, and you knew which guns you wanted to focus on, it would be alright. Other than that, just do more firepower. There's also a pretty wide variety of other useful items that you'll want to take with you that will in some way help you pretty significantly. There's things like the gas mask, body armor, grenades, the flashlight, and a whole bunch more. You'll have a very large number of items you want to take, but a very small number of item slots, especially when you need to take one or more key items. This game has probably given me some of the best resource management dilemmas to figure out. Moving on, this game also has good enemies and enemy variety. It's impressive how the slight tweaks of aggression, health, and range can make them feel very different when fighting them. As this game and Amnesia the Bunker have taught me, the greatest enemy of World War I was rats. The rats don't do much damage to you, but they can poison you, which in this game halves your health. So they're basically the Dark Souls cursed frogs, and they're a real nuisance. There are holes in the walls with rats' nest that you can blow up, but they do cost you a grenade, and some areas don't have rats' nest. Someone also mentioned that the rats don't attack the Germans, which is pretty video gamey, but it probably would have been overpowered to use the rats against them. It would have been pretty funny though to get a whole bunch of rats to follow you and use them as a weapon, like the Mines and Galaxy quest.
And what you fail to realize is my ship is dragging
rats. Getting off that rat tangent, the crafting system is fairly good and gives you some good decisions about what resources to use. There's also the shop, which is pretty well the RE4 shop. It has good and interesting items to buy and sell. The level design for the most part is good. There are interesting areas to navigate and good key item to key item progression, as is done in survival horror, but there are some rough spots. The first one is that the areas are really big. When you have to backtrack in Resident Evil, it's usually pretty quick because you're in a smaller space. But in this game, like, if you had a full inventory and missed an item, and you want to go back and get it, it can take you like a total of 5 minutes going there and back. Now, I'm sure that World War I soldiers had to do a lot of walking, but it doesn't make for very compelling gameplay. Now, admittedly, there are two things that I could have done to mitigate this. One is that there's a set of boots you can buy in the shop that let you move faster, but they take up an inventory slot, and I never found it worth it to do so. The other thing is that I could have turned on autosaves or unlimited manual saves, which probably would have been helpful in certain encounters, but wouldn't have solved every long walk problem. Another gripe with the level design is that foreground elements can sometimes block your view at critical times. Like sometimes there'd be like a corpse at the bottom of the screen with rats on it, and like a building is blocking the way. That sort of thing was annoying. And sort of related to that, the cover in this game can be misleading. Sometimes you think you have a wall between you and an enemy, but you don't actually, and you get shot. The last little thing on level design is I don't like how Rat's Nest and rooms filled with gas aren't marked on the mini-map. Just about everything else is. I don't see why these two things are excluded. One final thing I'll say is that it is a bit hard. That's not a complaint, just a bit of a warning for some people. When it comes to the story, there isn't a ton of story, but I think even with the limited focus on story, it did get you to feel for the characters and see how dire the situation is. Through both story and atmosphere, this game really does a good job conveying the brutality of war.
Man, that look like a damn apocalypse now, man, and I'm the horror. The horror.
Getting into the aesthetics, the atmosphere is filled with a lot of grunge and a chunk of gore. There's a lot of good small details that make it feel very real and also horrific. There's also pretty good animations that help with the brutal tone. Overall, this is a good, innovative survival horror with a horrific yet realistic World War I setting, and I'm giving it an 8.91. Thank you to anyone who likes, comments, or subscribes. That's it.
The horror. The horror.